Welcome into the Rundown on Fox Sports Radio 1400 around the world on the iHeartRadio app. My name is Rob Sanders. Thanks for joining us today as we're getting closer and closer to football season, ladies and gentlemen. We do have college baseball this weekend. Your super regional matchups are set. Let's go ahead and give you those really quick here before we get too far into the program. Tennessee will welcome in Notre Dame. Texas will play East Carolina. Texas A&M gets Louisville. Oklahoma will play Virginia Tech. Stanford gets UConn, North Carolina, and Arkansas. And Ole Miss will play Southern Miss, a battle of the SIP there. And then you've got Auburn playing Oregon State. So there's your matchups in the Super Regionals. If you want to talk a little bit about that, we can get into that today as well. But I've got some other things we're going to get into, including the stat that everyone loves unless it doesn't really fit their narrative, and that is wins against top 25 teams. We'll talk about that in a moment. But we have to start with another page in the Deshaun Watson saga, and that's basically what it's come down to now. We're at a point where Roger Goodell is going to have to make a decision on Deshaun Watson, and the Cleveland Browns are going to have to make a decision on Deshaun Watson. There's a problem. More of these cases keep coming out with the Deshaun Watson saga, because that's what it is. You come back down to it, it comes back down to this as well. A new report from the New York Times says that Watson had 66 massage therapists in 17 months. If that report is completely true, that's kind of crazy. Something may be a little bit off there. So the Cleveland Browns, by the way, have excused Baker Mayfield from camp. So he's not even coming to their little, I guess it's like their mini camp. So Baker Mayfield's not going to be there. And by the way, you've got the other end of it with Mayfield may end up being the quarterback for the Panthers. There's been talk that may happen. We shall see how that works out. But the Browns, they have gone all in with Deshaun Watson. All completely in. And now it's not like they can go back to Baker Mayfield. But now the NFL, what is the NFL going to do? Because I've got the vibe that Cleveland doesn't care. If Cleveland cared, they wouldn't have given Deshaun Watson a record contract. Okay? And I'm not saying Deshaun Watson did this stuff. I'm saying the public perception is that Deshaun Watson's ability to throw the football and be a superior athlete is more important than listening to the 24 women who've made accusations against him, that he did something of a sexual manner to them while they were giving him massages. I wasn't in the room with the guy. I don't know. I have no clue. The only two people that know are the women and Watson. And by the way, Watson's admitted to having sex with 3 of them. He said it was consensual. Once again, wasn't in the mix with all that. But here's what I do know. There are going to be a slew of people that are going to come out and say, you know what? Why do these cases keep coming up? Is it one of two things? Is it more women are being strong, which is what what you're hearing? The 24th case said she saw the stuff on HBO and decided that she wanted to put it out there. Are we going to go with that, or are we going with the attorney, Tony Busby, is putting out a narrative that, hey, there's more and more of this and something needs to happen? I agree with Stephen A. online. He says this man hired 66 massage therapists over 18 months. and 24 of them have accused him of sexual misconduct. Both numbers are shocking. Look, the reality, it comes back down to this. These 66 massage therapists in 17, 18 months, whatever the numbers are, you're right. That is utterly shocking. How many massage therapists do you need? I'm not trying to throw crazy shade out there, but it looks very weird to have that many massage therapists doing the massage thing. Now, and I hate to break this to some folks, but there are men that do massage therapy as well. If it were truly about, I'm trying to keep my body correct, doesn't really matter who it is doing your massage for you, right? Or am I missing something? I don't know. I know that the numbers that are out there, the Instagram messages and stuff that we've seen, wow, it just doesn't look good. Doesn't look good. Now, Papa B says not one single piece of tangible evidence, merely hearsay. Yes, but there's a lot of it. 24 different women. That is a ton of stuff there. Now, the question is, we're going to let you play commissioner today. 803-978-1832. Should Roger Goodell come down on Deshaun Watson, and basically he can't put him on the exempt list yet because there are no criminal charges, but he can suspend him until they weed some of this stuff out. Now, on the other end, the NFL supposedly is done with their investigation. Well, then what are we waiting for? This isn't the North Carolina basketball program or the Tennessee football program with the NCAA. Give us some answers. We should know what's going on here. Too much stuff behind the scenes that we just don't know about. And it is right now, it's a mess. With the NFL, their job, they don't need a court of law to determine their punishment for Watson. They really don't. It's not the NFL's responsibility to keep Deshaun Watson on the field in his athletic prime. It's not their responsibility to give the Browns the what's the term I want to use here? The gifted quarterback that they paid a lot of money for. We're at a point now where Roger Goodell has got to determine what he's going to do. And you know what? The Cleveland Browns could go a long way if they would just say, you know what? We're not going to play him until all of this is settled. They could go that route too. Or they could look people in the face and say, you know what? There are no criminal charges. These are accusations. They are civil lawsuits. And we're going to go from there. What do you think needs to happen? 803-978-1832. 803-978-1832. That is the number to dial if you'd like to join us here on the Rundown on Fox Sports Radio, 1400. Now, Goodell has previously said the exempt list is off the table because two separate grand juries in Texas didn't indict Watson. So there is no criminal element to the case. Now, they could come back and reopen the case later on, but we shall see on that. They could suspend Watson now, and it could be an overreach, which means that Watson could sue the NFL later on, in theory. If he's somewhat if the civil cases, he ends up being vindicated, he could go back to the NFL. You suspended me for nothing. Could be that too. Or they could just basically slap him on the wrist and say, you know what? Go on about your merry way, sir. Or they could do a combination of the two. Personally, I think the best thing to do for Deshaun Watson right now and the NFL is They need to get together with everyone that's involved and figure out how long this is going to take. Someone needs to get Busby, the attorney for the 24 women, into a room with Roger Goodell and whoever's running the Cleveland Browns organization and Deshaun Watson's attorney, Rusty Hardin, and figure out how long it's going to be. And then go from there. Papa B says Watson should hire Johnny Depp's lawyers and countersue for libel and defamation. Ouch. There might be some validity to that. By the way, Watson's attorney's talking about, Rusty Hardin talking about massages with happy endings. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know about all that. Maybe that's not something you should have out there when this is coming about. Stephen A says popular opinion currently is he'll miss the whole season. Oddly enough, it wasn't until the 24th victim that it became the prevailing opinion. Well, now I want to be the person that goes in and tells Baker Mayfield, hey, we need you to play. We're going to talk about a story there. And what happens if Mayfield comes back and puts it all together and has a great season? I don't think he will, but let's say that he does. Then Deshaun Watson gets his stuff finished up, sits out the year, and then next year this time we're talking about what are the Browns going to do with quarterback? They went from having no quarterbacks to 2 quarterbacks. Uh-oh. So there's lots of things you can look at when it comes to this story, but the big thing is, what is the NFL going to do? There's the old adage of tarnish the shield. If you tarnish the shield, you got to go away. You got to do some time for it. Will Deshaun Watson, he sat out last season. There's that in the mix. Will there be more? 803-978-1832. 803-978-1832. That's the number to dial if you'd like to join me here on the rundown. Do you think that the Browns made a mistake giving him that type of contract? Because basically the contract is set up like with what Steven said. Basically, he's going to get paid regardless. The most they could take away from him from the $220 million, whatever it is $6 million. If I'm Deshaun Watson, I'm sitting at home for $214. Have at it. You guys figure it out. He's losing a ton of money. I understand that. But you're also at the point where, and LaVon Kirkland, who, by the way, congratulations to our friend of the show, the Clemson Ring of Honor member who's in the on the ballot for the College Football Hall of Fame this year. LaVon Kirkland said someone needs to get to Watson and tell him, sit down, shut up, and shell out. You admitted you had sex with some of these women. That means that there was some sexual activity there. You should pay. And even if you didn't do anything wrong, sometimes they're going to keep coming after you until you break out that checkbook. Now, he's got to find someone that can put something together where I don't know how much money he's going to give each woman. Some of these women may not want to take his money. You never know. But he's at that point where that has to be an option in the mix. Now, he can also say the only statement that he's had so far is, hey, I didn't do anything and I'm not paying anything. Now, if you're going to ride that horse, you're going to, that's your ride or die moment. Have at it. You have that too. But there are several folks that have said, hey, maybe Watson needs to just break out that checkbook. You got that $220 million contract. Some of it's going to have to go to some of these women. 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. What I would do is because it seems like if there were 66 massage therapists and 24 of them have come out and said, yes, something happened, you think those other 42 aren't going to be getting, what's the term? Approached by Busby, the attorney for the 24, trying to see if there was something that may have happened there? It's a giant mess right now for Deshaun Watson and for the Cleveland Browns, because they basically gave up on Baker Mayfield. And they currently, I don't even know who their third string quarterback is right now. What are you doing? You want to go be the third string quarterback for the Browns? You might get to play. You really might. All right, quick break. We come back. We'll have more for you here on The Rundown. This is Fox Sports Radio 1400. So you think there should be a dress of some sort there, Big Barney Ross? I like it. I blame Hillary Clinton for that. She was supposed to take care of that, and she didn't. I mean, we've heard stories about Bubba Clinton, though, man. That guy, I mean, if it was walking, he was trying to hump it. Let's just be honest. What a mess that is. I'm going to highlight Papa B's comment because that's funny. That's hilarious. Nobody knows what happened. That Big Barney Ross might be correct. Yep, he might be right. Welcome back to the Rundown on Fox Sports Radio 1400 around the world on the iHeartRadio app. I'm Rob Sanders. Thanks for joining the show today as we roll along here, getting closer and closer to football season. You know, it's like, what, 80-something days now is where we're at. We should be getting the preseason magazines that are coming out. All of that's going to be down the pipe here not too long, man. Get a lot of that stuff will be I think Phil Steele's magazine comes out here shortly. That's like the college football Bible, right? Everybody thinks so anyway for the preseason. Anyway, interesting piece that I found this morning. You know, we look at wins over top 25 teams as something that is a big deal. I've always questioned that to an extent, and I'll tell you why. Because there's going to be a lot of top 25 teams in the first and second poll that don't finish in the top 25. Now, if you play that team in the first 2 weeks of the season and they're touted as a top 15 team, but they finish at 4-8, you're still going to count that as a top 25 win. Are we following along with what I'm saying here? I think it's one of those crazy stats that's out there that's interesting to look at, but in reality, The only true thing that you can really say when it comes to the top 25 is when you go to the end of the season and you say, you know what? X team played 7 teams in the top 25 that finished in the top 25, and this is their record against them. We've talked about that before. But this is interesting. This came out today. College football's winningest programs versus top 25 opponents. I thought we'd share some of these today because some of it's interesting. Number 9 on the list is the Georgia Bulldogs, and their top record against the top 25 since 2010 is 34-29. Now, a lot of that had to do with the fact of Mark Richt. He didn't win big games, okay? And since we're going back that far, I think that if we look, that's going back 12 years. Kirby Smart's first year with Georgia was what year? I can't remember. But given Kirby Smart's record and the way that he's done against top 25 teams, that percentage would be a lot higher but he has that tail end of Mark Richt's numbers there. So there's that. They're currently at 53% against top 25 teams since 2010. Number 8 on the list is Oklahoma State. Last year, Oklahoma State was 5-1 against the top 25. They're 6 games over 500 at 55% since 2010, playing 56 games. The Oregon Ducks, their record against top 25 teams since 2010 is 28-21, so they're 7 games over. Here is the interesting team that's in the mix. The Stanford Cardinal. If I told you the Stanford Cardinal at the beginning of it, you'd have been like, huh? What? Interesting. We'll get back to that list in a second. 803-978-1832. Let's go out to the phones. Welcome into the rundown. Good afternoon.
Hey, it's Big Barney Ross. I just wanted to call in and say it seems like Georgia and Kirby Smart have the same problem Kentucky has with Calipari. Now, both coaches are great at recruiting. There's no doubt about that, but pretty mediocre when it comes to developing talent and just terrible at drawing up X's and O's. Now, the amount of talent Calipari's put in the NBA, he should have more than one championship. I mean, this is just the same thing with Kirby Smart. With all the talent that he's had come through Georgia, he's got one championship. I mean, he frothed up. I mean, he just jaked up the offense for 4 years down there, and just he thought, Fromm would rise to the top. It don't. Cream does. And while they were getting them good meals together at the Sizzler, Calipari is doing the same thing at Kentucky in basketball. But what I really believe is Georgia's defense is probably the best I've ever seen in my life.
Right.
They had Stetson Bennett. He wasn't out there making racial tweets against his fellow teammates. He actually played for the jersey, the name on the front, not the back. And I think that's the problem, And until Kentucky gets rid of Calipari, you take Lane Kiffin or Dabo Swinney, stick him in Georgia, you're going to have a lot of championships there. That's going to be a problem. You take Rick Pitino or, Tom Izzo, put him out there coaching Kentucky basketball. That's going to be a problem for people. There'll be some championships come out of that. That's Big Barney Ross. You think about that. I'm out of here.
Big Barney Ross joining the program. One thing that he didn't mention, though, and there is a difference between Kirby Smart and Calipari. Calipari has been busted for cheating everywhere he's went. Kirby Smart is not. So that little nugget of detail, some people seem to forget. I mean, I don't even think the NCAA, I think they popped one team. I think they got South Carolina for too much icing on a cookie or something, some ridiculous thing. Georgia hasn't even had that happen to them, if I remember correctly. They don't have a lot of secondary violations either. So under that, Kirby Smart runs a tight ship, whereas up at Kentucky, Calipari, everywhere that he's left the team, and there's been sanctions afterwards. I mean, it's like a nice parting gift. It's like Derek Jeter. Derek Jeter, when he when he had all the women come to his house or whatever, he'd have a fruit basket for them when they leave in the morning. That's what Calipari does. Instead of giving them that nice disease that Derek Jeter gave everyone, Calipari just leaves with sanctions. I mean, not to throw rocks at Big Barney Ross there. But the reality is that's what happened. And I know some Kentucky fans going to be like, well, Kirby Smart hasn't had to coach anywhere else. Well, that's because he's built his program there. He didn't have to leave. Trust me, at Memphis, and we're always Calipari. Where all did he cheat at? Memphis, UMass. And there's a long line of cheating with John Calipari. It's just the way that it is. All right, 803-978-1832. Dakota says, are you saying Georgia doesn't cheat at all? That's crazy. No, listen closely. Georgia hasn't been sanctioned. Okay? I think even the most ardent Georgia fan will tell you there's probably some cheating going on somewhere. All right? I mean, let's just slow down on that a little bit. But as far as the NCAA sanctioning Kirby Smart, it just hasn't happened. Whereas John Calipari, he's got like war stripes, man. Big difference there. All right, 803-978-1832. We'll get back to this, the top 25 programs, our record against the top 25 programs, because there's a couple of teams in that mix that I was kind of like, wait a minute, how did that happen? So we'll get into that more when we come back. Of course, you can join us at 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. We'll go back out to the phones. Here we go. Welcome into the rundown. Good afternoon.
Hey, Rob, it's Scott from Marshall.
Hi, Scott. What's up?
What's going on? Do you know if what the Clemson side would look like if they switched the schedules? Who would be their permanent opponents?
What do you mean if they switch the schedules? I'm trying to figure out.
If they went to if they got away from their two divisions.
Oh, I think that's
Georgia
up in the
Tech,
air.
Florida State.
I mean, I don't know if they're talking about the pod system or whatever they're going to go with. I don't know how that's going to work. I would think that Clemson's permanent rival would be Georgia Tech and possibly NC State. I mean, that would make the most logical sense. But
I think it'll probably be Florida State too.
Yeah, you could probably go with those three, or you could go with Wake Forest. I mean, if we're going for, the geographical part of it, but I honestly don't know how that would work out. Obviously we'll get some more on that when we go up to Charlotte next month for ACC kickoff.
So do you think next year we'll see the Pac-12, Big Ten all just get rid of their two divisions?
Here's what I think is going to happen. And folks get upset on certain sides of the fence when I say this. Whatever Greg Sankey decides to do with the SEC, it's going to be like a rock hitting the water, and everyone will try to deal with the ripples that come after that. Because that's whatever he does, that's what everybody else is going to follow on, except for Notre Dame, because Notre Dame is on their own planet. But everyone else will completely follow from that. And if they go with the divisions, etc., then that's the way that everybody will go.
I just think it's going to be hard for them to work in Oklahoma and Texas into their divisions without having to move.
Well, no, it's simple. You put both of them in the West, and you move Alabama or Auburn to the East. Ta-da! You're done.
Georgia's not going to like that.
Well, Georgia's one team out of what? 18 teams in the
conference. But South Carolina's not going to like it either.
So,
I mean, Florida's not going to like it.
Do you think Ole Miss is going to like having to play Texas and Oklahoma every year? No.
I'd rather play them than I would rather play Alabama.
What about Auburn? Put Auburn over there.
Oh yeah, yeah. Because you would have to change two teams.
No, you just put one. Just drop one team over there. I think that's the way it would work.
1 and 1.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. I just don't think that really. If I'm a South Carolina fan, I'm having I wouldn't want that.
Oh, but
I would want two divisions because that gives me a better chance to win.
I mean, I get that, but in the end, Greg Sankey doesn't care. He wants to try to do what's best for the conference. Now, I do think that if he's rolling through Birmingham or whatever, someone might get him, might sway him a little bit, because I think Alabama has a lot with that league office. I really do. But in the end, I think it's going to come down to what's best for the conference.
And what do you think ESPN is going to do about these new TV deals that are going to have to come out? Because ESPN is sinking.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm kind of enjoying watching it, because it's not exactly what it used to be, where we could just tune in, get the scores. I mean, now it's like, and I know this sounds like I'm being crazy here, but now it's, what kind of soccer mom horse crap can we put out there to make people cry? Or what kind of political message can we send in between giving you the games, which is what everybody is here for anyway? Yeah. They've completely gotten away from it, and it's terrible. And it sounds like I'm being sexist when I say this, but they are catering to women. That's what they're doing over at ESPN right now. They want the soccer moms to come in and everybody feel happy, and then maybe they'll stick around for the games, because they're going to get the guys there anyway, because they're going to watch their teams. But right now it's literally, let's have soccer moms and let's make them happy and bring them in, and we'll show stories of triumph. That's what we're going to do. And then hopefully people will stick around for the games. That's just the way that it is.
Yeah.
So I'm rooting for ESPN to fail.
Yeah.
Have at it.
I saw the cornhole championship the other night.
Yeah, terrible.
On ESPN. I mean,
terrible.
They have gone back to, I guess they're going to have to go back to Australian rules football. That's where they started.
Well, what they should.
I guess that's where they end.
I mentioned this the other day, and I stand behind this. The conferences need to get together and do what the WWE did. Everybody's like, Rob's talking about wrestling. No, start your own network and tell your SEC fan base, look, for $10 a month, you can watch all of the football games right here. Boom, it's right there for you. You will get everybody in there. Yeah, of course they would. Of course they would. They would have a ton. They'd have money to burn by the truckload. I'd pay $20 a month to watch whatever it is you come up with. You put that out there and then go from there. That's what they should do. You don't need ESPN. You don't. With the way technology is now, you don't need it. You can stream it, make it work.
You can stream everything now.
You certainly can.
All right, man. Thanks a lot, man.
Appreciate it. Have a great day. All right, quick break. When we come back, we're a little bit behind, but we will return in just a moment. This is The Rundown. You're listening to Fox Sports Radio 1400. Wow, are you serious on that? Did not see that. I did see something with the Virgin Islands about that. Yeah, Tom, that's pretty cool. She's a dynamic player, man. I think she's one of the best women's players in the country. If you're talking about quarterback rankings and just ratings in general, yes, there is a set of folks that I completely agree with you on that, Tom. I've seen that happen a lot of times with guys that are recruited to South Carolina, Mizzou, Kentucky. They're 5 stars, and then all of a sudden they're 4 stars the next day. So yeah. I didn't see your prediction there, Jay. What are you talking about? Let's see if I can find Jay's prediction here. Maybe I missed it. I just didn't see it. Calm down, Jay. It's not always about you. By the way, I'd love for you to actually call the program, Jay, instead of just being a keyboard warrior. I bet you couldn't string together 8 words, you hillbilly. dare you to call the program? I'd shred you, dude. Better get Peg and Megan to call for you. Welcome back to the Rundown on Fox Sports Radio 1400 around the world on the iHeartRadio app. Tom online. I want to read what Tom wrote here because this is valid. I'm going to go back up and he says Clemson's QB got bumped up from 4-star to 5-star after only throwing 15 TDs to 8 INTs in high school and 2,000 yards. Clemson bias. They dropped Braden Davis the second he committed to South Carolina. And of course, I don't know which service dropped him. I use 247 Sports because it's just the one that I like. But I have seen where certain folks have committed to South Carolina or programs that are not necessarily the quote unquote blue blood programs. They go to they end up signing there and their rankings just drop. That's just the way that it is. Tom is correct. I don't know if it's a Clemson bias or not. I mean, I think this happens with Alabama kids too. I think Luther Burden's numbers went down a little bit in the 247 Sports thing because it was either Georgia or Alabama or Mizzou, and he chose to go to Mizzou, and his rankings, I think he was still a 5-star, but just the number beside it went down. I mean, I don't know who makes these decisions on the ratings. That's another thing too, by the way. We all can agree that to win a championship, you do need a lot of these 4- and 5-star players. I get that. But who evaluates these guys and determines, all right, are they a 4- or 5-star player? I don't know. We'll have to look at that. I really and truthfully don't know who all does the ratings on any of these guys. 803-978-1832. Ohio State is one of the teams too. Yeah, you're right about that. And you ever notice there is a bump up in some of these things too, where it goes the other way? Yeah, like exactly what he was talking about. Hey, they commit here and they're a 4-star. Now after spring evaluations, they're a 5-star. Yeah, that happens. That happens a good bit. 803-978-1832. 803-978-1832. Tom says he went from borderline 5-star to mid 3. Wow. I'll have to check on that. I mean, and see, stuff like that affects your recruiting class. And when we're talking about that in February, whenever signing day is, and you're looking at your recruiting class and it looks a hell of a lot better to have, 10 4-stars than to have, at one point you had 10 4-stars. Now you got 7 and then 3 stars after that. But in the end, it all comes back down to player development. And that's the biggest thing. Remember, the greatest quarterback in South Carolina history, of course, in my opinion, was Connor Shaw. And he was 2-star, 3-star player. Best to ever wear to suit up down there at quarterback, in my opinion, at South Carolina. We can debate on that if you want. But a lot of times those rankings some of them make sense and sometimes they don't. 803-978-1832. 803-978-1832. Elijah says player evaluation and development are way more important than the star rankings. Yeah, but we've seen that the star rankings are important when you look at the, except for the playoff last year with Cincinnati in the mix. Generally, the top 4 teams in the playoffs had top 10 classes for the past 3 or 4 seasons. So there's that. I mean, it really is important. I'd like to get a behind the scenes on who does those ratings. How do you determine how this kid is a 4-star player and this kid is a 5-star player? I have to do some work on that. 803-978-1832. 803-978-1832. More of the rundown when we come back. This is Fox Sports Radio 1400. That's funny. Yeah, Coach Gray is solid. I agree with you on that. But they'll tell you that a lot of the stuff with Torian Gray, I think they try to give a lot of that credit to Muschamp, but Jay says, Rob, would you consider yourself a power bottom in the bear community? Ask your girlfriend about my power bottom, sir. I might do that. Welcome back to the Rundown on Fox Sports Radio 1400. Around the world on the iHeartRadio app. Tom with a comment that Torian Gray has been the most underrated coach on the South Carolina staff. It's be the third year in a row with a top-rated corner in the country, and it was all in his development. Yeah, I don't think anyone is going to have conversations anymore without talking about how Torian Gray has developed some folks in the secondary for South Carolina. You mentioned the 3 seasons, though. I think that there's a section of people that thought that, hey, bringing in and figuring out who these cornerbacks are going to be, I think they gave a lot of that credit to Will Muschamp and the defensive staff that was there. But Torian Gray is doing a heck of a job for them down there. So, and Tom, of course, says Muschamp couldn't make a glass of warm milk, let alone produce corners. Shots fired at the Georgia folks there. 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. We were talking about wins against top 25 teams. Since 2010, number 6 in the country is the Stanford Cardinal. Now, a lot of that was when Jim Harbaugh was there. But, wait a minute. No, Harbaugh left in 2010. So I'm sorry. But David Shaw, last season, they were 2-2 against the top 25. Their record against the top 25 since 2010 was 31-23, which puts them at about 57%. Number 5 on the list is the Clemson Tigers. 1-2 last season, 32-19. They win at 62% of the time against the top 25. And of course, you'll have the folks that will try to throw rocks at that, but they played 51 top 25 opponents since 2010, and they've won 32 times. So they're getting it done up there at Clemson. LSU is on top there at number 4. They've won 63% of their games against top 25 teams. And of course, that's under Les Miles, Ed Orgeron. It's amazing how consistent they've been with that number, considering the fact they've had, 3 head coaches since then. And they've still managed to be that solid. That solid. The Oklahoma Sooners are at number 3 on the list. They've won 66% of their top 25 games. Yeah, of course, a lot of that with Lincoln Riley and Bob Stoops. They're doing it right at Oklahoma. Number 2 on the list is Ohio State. They won 76% of their top 25 games. Now, I'm sure if we broke that down, I think a lot of those top 25 wins, and I think this is a way with a lot of these teams. If we went back and looked at it, there would be some of those wins that were against teams that didn't finish in the top 25. But for the sake of this list, Ohio State's at number 2. And Alabama is, of course, number 1 on the list. And I've lost track of my piece of paper on that. But they are number 1 on the list. Last season, they were 5-1 against the top 25. So, with that, the top 25 stat is an interesting stat But once again, I bring this up today because your preseason magazines are going to be coming out in the next couple of weeks, and there will be a slew of articles that will say, wow, look at our schedule. There's 8 top 25 teams on there. At the end of the season, they might have 4 teams that actually finish in the top 25. Not true top 25 teams until you finish the season in the top 25. Just the way that it is. 803-978-1832. 803-978-1832. That is the number to dial if you'd like to join us here on the rundown. Jay's upset. Says, this ain't Mark Rick's UGA. If you would have listened earlier, I said the reason Mark Rick got fired is because he couldn't win the big games. And I also said, but I have to tell you because you are so sensitive. You Georgia fans are so sensitive. National champions. And you say anything, you're like, oh my God. I mean, just the most sensitive fan base on the planet when it comes to certain things. I said if Kirby Smart had coached the team since 2010, with the record that he's had against the top 25 teams, they'd be higher on the list. But dumb Georgia fans over there losing their minds in the chat room. It's ridiculous. Oh, notice one name that wasn't in the mix there. Texas A&M, not on the list. Sorry. Florida State, not on the list. Sorry. Miami, not on the list. Sorry. Just the way that it is. You would think that those teams would be there. Not so much. All right, taking your calls at 803-978-1832. 803-978-1832. That is the number to dial if you'd like to join us here on the rundown on Fox Sports Radio 1400. I mentioned the super regional matchups. Tennessee will play Notre Dame, Texas and East Carolina, Texas A&M and Louisville, Oklahoma and Virginia Tech, Stanford and UConn, North Carolina and Arkansas, Ole Miss and Southern Miss, Auburn and Oregon State. Great comment from Jimmy. The reason Mark Richt got fired is because South Carolina was about to hire Kirby Smart. Yes, there was stuff behind the scenes where they were going to hire Kirby Smart. And they ended up with Will Muschamp. Imagine how that would have worked out. 803-978-1832. Someone was telling me earlier that people were paying like $200 to go to a super regional matchup in Mississippi with Ole Miss and Southern Miss. Would you pay that much to go to a super regional matchup? $250. Wow. I'm not going to read Elijah's comment because it's pretty crazy. But it's basically a Tennessee fan smacking Notre Dame around. You can follow the chat room on the Fox Sports Radio 1400 Facebook page. Tennessee's got the numbers that it should be, especially with, I think Notre Dame scored 11 runs in 3 games in their regional round or something like that. They didn't really score a lot. Tennessee's got great pitching. And I've said before, I think that someone's going to throw one of those junk ball left-handers at Tennessee, and they're not going to know how to react. But you have to give the Vols credit. In their regional, they were behind in 2 games by 4 runs or more and basically just beat the snot out of the ball, gave people the finger, and advanced. It's kind of the way it worked. Billy says, check out the price of a ticket in Knoxville. Starts at $383 and sold out. Wow. That's a lot of money for a super regional ticket. 803-978-1832. 803-978-1832. Peg and Megan with a great football memory. Whenever I think UK football, all I can think about is that 2007 LSU game. They dumped Gatorade on the coach, and then they lost. Yeah, Kentucky fans don't want to talk about that. The 5,000 that were standing outside the field there waiting for Midnight Madness tickets, they were upset. Upset that it probably started raining. What a mess that was. 803-978-1832. Actually, I'm about out of time. Big Barney Ross says, I have to give the Tennessee Vols credit because the NCAA took all their cash and McDonald's bags away. But, now we've got the folks. Now we got the folks talking on ESPN about the whole steroid thing, which that's just silly. I don't know. I mean, what a mess that's turned into. What an absolute mess. Anyway, here on the rundown, we will be tomorrow. We'll have a more in-depth look at some of the super regionals and all kinds of other things. Whatever else comes about our merry way here. Jay shooting shots at the Tennessee folks. Lane Kiffin will go down as Tennessee's greatest coach. Oof. I mean, they won a title with Phil Fulmer, but okay. Jay's being silly today. All right. Anyway, don't forget Lawton Swan of Clemson Sports Talk. He's the czar of Clemson Sports. You can follow him on Twitter at Clemson Sports. He will be with you here shortly. My name is Rob Sanders. I'm on Twitter at Rob Sounds Good. We'll see you tomorrow. All right. Appreciate you guys, man. We'll talk to you later on. Oh, new Rob and Kale show tonight.